Hi guys, and welcome to yet another review. This time around I bring you, it's basically a revisit to the XSL X1, which has been slightly retuned, but at the same time I bring you the CKLVX XD1 and as well the Tiandirenhe TD18. Okay, these IEMs are all part of this vaster group of IEMs here, which I like to call the mischiefs. Why the mischiefs? Because they have a tuning which is very much a departure from the usual Harman kind of tune. They kind of going their own way, and they all of them are priced between the 40 to 65 $70 bracket. Obviously there's a few more that could have been here, but those ones already then fall into another group of IEMs which have a tuning which is more on the Harman style, and I thought it would be interesting to just compare basically what we have around, or some of them of the IEMs that we have around that price bracket, which have a different sound tuning, a different approach to how to tune sound. Some of them have been successful, some of them have been less successful, but I thought it would be an interesting comparison to do. Anyway, let me just introduce everything and then we'll get straight into the main three ones, which are these ones over here. On the top there I've got the KB Ear Streamer. Next to that I've got the R2E3 Mermaid. Next to that this is a mouthful, the hold on, let me see the name properly so I don't make any mistakes and I don't insult anybody. This is the Zoon Line Z4. I'm just going to call it Z4 from now on for the sake of being easier. Next to that the OH300. Over here the Jazeer Clear, then the X1, the original tuning and now the retuned version, the CKLVX XD1, and as well the TD18. What are all of these IEMs, or one of the things, which is one of the things that they have in common? Well, they're all single DDs, obviously using different materials. I mean, we have LCP on, for example, the CK. We have LCP as well on the OH300. We have LCP on the Clear. We have DLC, for example, on the Z4 and on the TD18. We have a beryllium coating on the Mermaid, and normal coating then there on the Streamer. Some of them have got the tuning nozzles, which is the case of those two over there. They've got tuning nozzles. The rest of them don't have any tuning nozzles, but they just have a different approach to how they like to tune their sound, or how they wanted to tune their sound. Let's put it that way. What can I then say about, well, these three to start with? Well, start on to the X1. The X1 has got a very good driver. Let's get that out of the way here straight away. However, in its, let's say, Mark 1 version, it was too mid-bass prominent and kind of just bloated the whole presentation too much and detracted away then from the mids and the highs. So it wasn't exactly what you would call a very detailed reproduction. It was a little, there was potential there, because rumors are that this driver is the same driver that's been used in the very famous and very well received MIM Dark Magician. At least a few other reviewers have opened those particular IEMs up and compared it with the driver that's here, and it's exactly the same driver. So if in the Dark Magician it worked wonders, and that was a $500+ IEM, over here in this IEM, which costs about $55, they've used the same driver that just didn't tune it to the best or to the most pleasant manner. To that effect, they've done a retune, which is this one here on the right hand side. And this one here, what they've done is basically they've brought down that whole sub bass and bass area and early mids area a good 3-4 dBs, and by bringing it down it just completely opened up the sound totally. I personally feel that they should still bring it down slightly and then readjust a little bit more the high end. The high end also changed slightly, both that shift in the bass quantity that we find But I still feel that there's more that this driver can give, and I surely hope that they will perhaps consider retuning it once again if they see my video, and improve upon it, because trust me, this probably out of all the IEMs here, it's the one that has the most potential to really become something truly special. Okay. Other than that, obviously the retune now means that mids are more open, there's more detail. It's still a warmer sounding IEM. It's still an IEM which is not exactly a detail freak like, for example, the Z4 is, but the balance that we now find in the X1 is way more pleasant than what it was before. Everything sounds now more coherent. You can hear details. There's now ability to actually be technically capable, which initially it was a little bit deficient in that aspect. So it was a very welcomed improvement. Okay, and if people were hesitant to buy it in the beginning, I think now there's no reason to be hesitant, unless of course you want to wait until a possible retune to it. Excuse me. Next to that, we have got here the CKLVX, which is yet another one of those obscure brands that we don't hear much about, that just comes out of nowhere. And obviously the IEM, it is a very nice IEM. It is a resin plastic or resin 3D printed shell with a nice faceplate design. Very reminiscent once again. I mean, if you look at this IEM and you see many other IEMs that are out there, and it's not that they are radically different in terms of how they look or anything. No, you can see that there is a similarity in the overall appearance. You can see that there's a little bit of a different color, be it the left or the right side. So this is kind of more greenish, this is more blue. Used as an LCP driver, and the tuning of this is very much along the lines of the Jazeer Clear. What does that mean? It means it's got a nicely done bass, very well executed sub bass focus, and then the pinna gain is a very slow progressive pinna gain that peaks past 3K. So it's very smooth, very relaxed in the way that it rises, then it has a slight little dip, a little couple related peak, and then some extension past 10K. What that gives us is a very smooth, very easygoing sound that's got still plenty of details. There's no unnecessary forwardness, there's no sibilance as such, there's no aggressiveness, there's no harshness. Everything is very smooth. Yes, it is a kind of a V-shaped signature, you can say that, but it's very easy to listen to. It's a very pleasant sound. It's very agreeable. Actually, if I have to compare it, I don't want to so much do comparisons here, but in terms of the detail that one and the other offer, this one offers more detail than the X1. But like I said, I still feel that the X1 has got potential, and there's more to give. But as they are at the moment, at the current moment, great vocals, maybe male vocals slightly little recessed, slightly. Female vocals are perfect. Instruments sound very well as well. Timbre and tonality is very correct. Actually, both of them in terms of timbre and tonality are, in my opinion, pretty correct. And then of course the difference that you will see between these two is in terms of its technical abilities. There's more detail retrieval here. There's a slightly larger soundstage in terms of width and height. Then over there the soundstage is more of a cozy kind of a feel, and there's improved imaging over here as compared to the X1. But I mean, not huge differences, but there is a slight difference as they stand. This retails anywhere between depending on where you get it, but this one retails anywhere between $45 and $55, so basically the same price as the X1. And then finally over here, the Tiandirenhe, the TD18, which they marketed as their new top of the line. It's got an 11mm DLC diaphragm driver. And you know, I always struggle to kind of give a proper review the TD series, because they always look very promising on the graphs, and then when you actually then listen to them, they just sound a little bit disappointing. And the TD18 is no different. I mean, in terms of its build, it's perfect. It's got a build quality and an appearance which reminds us very much of like the likes of the T3 Plus and TKZK Oranos, that kind of stuff. Even the new KB here as well, the KB01 looks very similar in terms of its appearance. Graph supplied by them seems very interesting, and it was based basically on that I actually went out and I bought this unit. And then when you listen to it, it is good at low volumes. Let's put it that way. If you start cranking up the volume, this becomes a little bit harsh. The upper mids, actually starting at around 2.5, 3K. Above that, everything is just way too energetic, which at low volumes you don't really notice it. It confers a nice open sound, kind of keeps up with the bass in a nice manner. But then the moment you start turning up the volume knob, it just takes off, and then it leaves the bass completely behind. It becomes way too energetic, way too prominent, and it just it just spoils it. It makes it become fatiguing. That's ultimately the best way I can actually describe it. It just becomes fatiguing because it's not an IEM that you will spend a lot of time listening to it, especially if you like to give it a little bit of volume. Male vocals and female vocals, they sound fine, not as good as on the D1 or on the X1. That's the reality. Detailed retrieval is okay, but again, not on the level of either one of these two. Soundstage, a little bit on the closed side as well, in my opinion. Really, I think they just need to consider just giving it a slight retune. Honestly, I'm going to actually play around with it and try to retune it myself to see if I can obtain the performance. I think that it's hidden inside here because, being a DLC driver, fair enough that it's not a precursor to being able to play music properly, but a DLC driver has got potential if it is a good quality one, and I'll let you know how that goes as well. So compared to these two, I feel that the TD18 at about $50 that it costs is not the one that I would personally choose. All right. As for the others, I mean, I've reviewed all of these other IEMs here. I mean, the streamer, I think I don't really need to talk much about it, and the streamer compared to any one of these three gets absolutely, it just gets trampled completely. It's got nothing. It even compared to the TD18, which is the weaker link of these three here, it cannot keep up with the TD18. It can't. Okay. As for the Mermaid, which I've reviewed, the Z4, those two compared here to the X1 and the D1, more detailed retrieval ultimately on the Z4. The Z4 is probably the one that's got the most detailed retrieval. The Mermaid, as it stands there with that tuning nozzle that it's got there, it kind of sounds very similar to the X1, the retuned, the Mark II version, and the D1. It kind of sounds very similar. So I would consider these three very kind of on the same ballpark, the same type of tonality and timbre, the same type of bass, perhaps just a little bit less sub bass over there. In terms of male vocals, very similar, very equal across the board. Female vocals, perhaps they're a little bit more energy on the Mermaid. And then technically, they kind of trade blows. Like I said, technically I still think that the D1 is the better one, and those two probably a close second. All right. As for the Z4, technically it is even better than the D1. It is technically better than the D1. Due to the way that it's been tuned, the DLC driver there, which is a driver which has the ability to be very opened, it sounds a little bit bass shy comparatively to these two. But in my opinion, and again with the nozzle that I've been using, nothing that I personally consider a detriment to its sound capabilities. So I would say that one is a little bit differently tuned to these ones to actually give it a more fair comparison and say that, you know, it's I would say that one there would be for those of you that like more detail and that are more inclined for vocals especially. That would be the ideal. These two will give you a more laid back, more relaxed sound with a bigger emphasis played on the bass and on the mids, the lower mids. All right. Compared there to the OH300. The OH300, if you guys remember when I reviewed it recently, I really like it. I think it's a great IEM. You know, very nice bass. It's got very much the ICO bass. Okay, and then the mids and the upper mids and the treble are also well executed. Probably the area there which is a little bit more lackluster as compared to the previous two spectrums of the sound, but you know, the bass is probably the treble, which is a little bit, it's just borderline sufficient to keep up. That's my opinion, but still, I still think the OH300 is a very nice IEM. And I mean, that particular unit, you can, I actually got it from HiFiGo. You can pick it up at HiFiGo for $40. It's probably, if I'm not mistaken, actually the cheapest IEM out of all of them over here. And you know, very nice IEM. Honestly, a very nice IEM, very capable IEM. It's got that peculiarity I have in the crossover network as well on the faceplate. Very nice. Sonically, it stays behind these two slightly, mainly because it doesn't have the detail retrieval capabilities, so the technicalities, the ultimate technicalities that the one has. And over here, this one, I mean, the X1 is got a lot of, it's got a very energetic, very bass, which, you know, coming from the OH300, which you kind of think, all right, but that's already its strong point. Can it? Yes, this can do bass even better than that. All right, so I would say that it's not massive differences here by any means, but that one there is just slightly behind these two, or almost equal to these two in a lot of aspects, just slightly behind, like I said, mainly in those two areas, detail retrieval and in the bass. And then finally the clear, which not wanting to detract any value from any of the other IEMs here, I think probably the Jazeera Clear is the one that has the best ratio of a number of factors. First of all, the price is just over $40. So, you know, you might say, okay, but this is just over 40, this is about 55, this is about 50, that's about 60, that's about 60, 65, that's about $70 there, this is about 50. It's not, it is a difference which is significant because it is also very capable sonically. So although the difference monetarily doesn't seem like a lot, for how it sounds, it makes itself become more bloated, because the clear does sound very good, very good. Like I said in the beginning, the clear and the D1 have got a very similar kind of a signature, but the clear is better than the D1. The clear has got more bass impact, more slam than the D1. The same type of bass, mind you, but it's got more slam, it's more incisive, more energy and detail in the upper mids and treble than the D1, and more extension as well past 10K. There's just something about the clear that you hear it, and it's very seductive. It's a very easy IEM to like, because it's got a lot of energy, but somehow it's also capable of being very relaxed and very tame when it needs to be relaxed and tame. So, you know, it's in my opinion, it's the one that edges out all the other IEMs here. Not by a huge margin, but it edges out all the other IEMs here. Obviously, when I say this, if you already own any one of these ones over here, for example, if you own an OH300, is the clear a really big upgrade? No, it's an upgrade, but it's not a huge upgrade. So it will kind of be dependent on you, you know, if you want it or not. Compared to the Z4, it's probably it's probably the most difficult comparison to make because of how different their tuning ideas are. Okay, so I would say that these two are side grades to each other. Comparing the the clear to the Mermaid. They have kind of a similar philosophy, but this is just got more bass quality, better mids, upper mids and highs. So you know, there's enough here. I think there's enough here to justify choosing it over that. Although if you do have the Mermaid, maybe not worthwhile going to buy the clear. As compared to the TD18, definitely yes, it's a definite must. Streamer as well, definitely much better. And finally, compared here to the X1 and the D1, compared to the D1, very similar, but you know, they at the same kind of value that they have in money, in price, I would choose the clear. I'm being as honest as I can possibly be. I would choose this over the D1. You know, money for money, without question. Compared to the X1, as the X1 stands right now, yes, the clear is still better. It's still got more detail up top. However, like I said in the beginning of the review, this is for me the IEM out of all of these that has the most potential, especially because I know where its origins are, and knowing its origins and knowing what this driver was capable of doing in the Dark Magician, I know there's a lot more performance that this driver can still give. I would say that it's now probably at 60% of its abilities, and it's still got a very big margin of improvement out of all of them. And that's it, guys. I mean, I hope you enjoyed this little comparison. It wasn't not so much to choose an outright winner or an outright loser, but this also serves to show that the market is very competitive. Like I said, I still got a whole bunch of other IEMs that I could have included here. I mean, SG03S from Richo, all the other Harman tuned ones, the EPZ, the Q5, the SimGots, the Whizzer, so many, the KB Ear, the Inc2. There's so many more IEMs. You know, that this is a good way of companies understanding that when they launch a product, they have to make sure they do their homework. You know, and that particular comment that I made now goes especially for the streamer, because the streamer had everything to be a winner. Beautiful IEM, beautiful construction. I mean, it's probably the most stunning IEM here. You know, okay, these are all metal shell and they have their beauty, but this as an all resin shell, this has got that kind of soft tears, Moondrop S8 vibe going for it. That's how good the resin here looks. Okay, fine, we know with age it's gonna become a little bit more yellow, but it looks the part. It genuinely looks the part. And then I don't understand what they did with the tuning, honestly. I really do not understand, and it's a pity. It is a pity, because this properly tuned would have been a beast of an IEM. If this had the tuning of its KB01 sibling, this review would have turned out in a completely different manner. All right. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now quickly the graphs and we'll wrap it up. All right. Take care. Hi, guys, and welcome now to the graph section for this comparison that I've done here. This first graph that I'm showing you is the graph of the XSL X1, the original version, okay, which you can see it's got this really big bass and mid bass. It's not really the mids that are the problem, because the mids by themselves, if you see, it's 62 to 68, it's got a 6 dB gain. I mean, this part here is done beautifully. What it needs to happen is this whole area needs to come down while keeping that as it is. And to that effect, they've given us now the Mark II, which basically kept that mids and upper mids as the same. Changed slightly here the profile. I mean, I apologize for this difference here, but sometimes it's difficult to measure with the tips. Changed slightly here the profile, but then as you can see, this whole sub bass, mid bass, and lower mids have come down a good 3-4 dBs, and changed completely the balance. So if initially the balance was, you can see, bass is over the mids and by quite a bit. I mean, we're talking about 73, that's 68, we're talking about a 5 dB difference there. Now in the new version, let me just take away this one, the bass is basically on the level with the mids, okay, and completely changes the dynamics of the X1. There's not, there's really isn't much bleed of the bass into the mids. The pin again, as you can see, it's a relaxed pin again, peaks at 2. and then kind of slowly goes down. You could say that out of all of these IEMs, probably this is the one that kind of already has more of a Harman style of a tune, okay? But I still felt that it was different enough to make it make sense that it made part of this group of IEMs. Anyway, this is the X1, the current version. The next one I'm showing you now is the OH300 from ICO. And just a curiosity, if I compare the ICO with the original X1, as you can see, very similar in terms of the bass. However, because the ICO's got more energy here, it kind of balanced out everything. Now, what is even more funny is that comparing the ICO with the current version of the X1, you know, at least I feel that there's the difference that is here isn't what the graph is showing. I would almost dare say that I think that the perception I got from the majority of the songs that I was listening was that actually the X1 had the same, if not sometimes even a little bit more detail than the OH300. Anyway, that's just me, my ears, my music. Next one that I'm going to show you now here is the Jazeera, the clear, and as you can see, big bass as well, big bass. Very relaxed, progressive pinna gain, peaks at about 5 and then drops off, extension song. Again, this is one of those graphs that you look at it and you think, oh my god, this is going to be such a nightmare, bloated mess in terms of the bass. And no, although we are talking about obviously a huge pinna gain in the bass, I mean we're talking 17 dBs of gain for the bass, for some reason, which I mean, I'm guessing it's down to the quality of the driver and the way that they've actually made sure that the majority or the most significant part of that energy is below 100 hertz. It just sounds very big without being overly bloated or overly smothering the rest. Because if you actually take the 1 hertz area, you can see that it's basically aligned with the rest of the upper mids area. So this balance here has been very well struck. Definitely via V shape. Yes, definitely some recession on the mids and especially in the male vocals and so on, but nothing too dramatic, nothing that's going to be, I consider at least a major deal breaker. Comparatively now to the CKLVX XD1, as you can see, they are very similar. They both use the same kind of LCP drivers. A little bit more energy on the bass on the clear, but the pin again very similar, just that one peaks at around 4, the other one peaks at 5. And so there's a little bit less energy here, but however that's not how you actually perceive it as well. Yes, you do notice that the D1 is a little bit less clearer up top, but it's not a big difference. Okay, and then finally the TD18, which, you know, I think the graph already says basically everything. Comparatively, for example, to the original X1, it's the same sort of bass, okay, but with a very energetic upper mids, especially in treble area. That when compared to, for example, if I compare it to the OH300, you can kind of get the same vibe as well. Very similar bass, but the balance that they've struck in the OH300, much nicer, much better. This little extra that's here is too much. It just needs to come down a little bit, and if possible, just bring down the mid bass just a little bit. I wouldn't say that for the OH300, because the OH300 again, the way the bass is done is very much like on the Jazeera, the clear. It's big, but it's really well done. It's good. It's a really nice sounding IEM. It surprises you in a very positive manner. The TD18, way too much energy, way too much energy. And finally, I was forgetting here the streamer, sorry, my apologies. Where are we? KB ear, here we go. Oops, KB ear, the streamer. And I think the graph of the streamer as well very much speaks for itself. It is look, it is what it is. I wouldn't. I'm normalizing it at 1K. Although I would think, or I'm gonna say that a more fair way to normalize it and compared to the others is actually at 500 hertz. But it just doesn't sound. It just sounds very off. The bass in itself is well executed, but then this whole area, yeah, should have been completely redone in a different manner, in a manner that would be, I would almost say, if it had, let's make a quick, if it had, if they had done something like this, that would have been much better. This is the graph, obviously, of the X1. If they had done something like this would have been a way more agreeable tune. But no, they decided to go down this road of I don't even know what to call this tuning. Guys, that's it. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.